congratulations on being named to the task force to investigate the attempt on President Trump's life. Very serious stuff. Do you have any idea why you got picked? I'm glad you're on there. Warren, well, it's pretty close to Butler, but why did you get picked?
Thank you, Hugh. I know some would say that's a good question. Look, I was 25 years as a former prosecutor. I was a former chair of Homeland Security Appropriations. I dealt with, at that point, Director Cheadle and all the different agencies involved here, and Homeland and Secret Service. So, yeah, I asked, told the speaker that if in fact he was looking for somebody, I have the background and the willingness to do it. And he was kind enough to consider my qualifications and put me on. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'd forgotten the prosecutor part, Congressman. I'd forgot that. That's what we need. I talked to Congressman Waltz yesterday. He's a Green Beret intel guy. Lou Correa I've known forever. We served on a committee together when I was living in California. He's a smart guy. It's a good committee. But boy, their first two appearances, Director Cheadle in front of the House and the acting director in front of the Senate, they don't even have a timeline yet.
Well, Director Cheadle, she might as well have stayed home. That testimony was terrible. And I get it that you're waiting for the facts to come in and you don't want to prejudge people, especially those in her employ. But at least be honest. The acting director, he got in there and was honest about it. Look, we made mistakes and we have to fix those mistakes. I can tell you that I was happy to hear him say it wasn't about money because I made sure that they had the compensation. So therefore, it's got to be about their training and it's got about the assignments of who they've got on presidential protective details and what background that they have in doing that. I mean, the idea that they would let somebody inside the perimeter like this or just defer to local law enforcement without having a walkthrough and knowing where everybody's at, it's sort of hard to fathom in this day and age.
Congressman, what I want to know is the size of President Obama's detail when he ran in 2008, the size of Donald Trump's detail when he ran in 2016, the size of Hillary Clinton's the size of every candidate's detail on every outdoor rally, because my guess is we're going to find significant disparities in the detail size. Do you share my suspicion?
Yes, sir. And that's the hard part about it. Not only was going to be less people, but they're less qualified. I mean, you have to have people who know what they're doing, especially with President Trump favoring outdoor venues. That's a lot more place to cover. I mean, there's got the vantage points, as we found out, unfortunately, they left it to, as they had found out yesterday or the other day at the hearing, they left it to local law enforcement who felt the roof was too hot, so therefore they were inside chilling. That doesn't occur. You don't have those kind of faults. There should have been a walkthrough on Friday so everybody knew their position and everybody knew what was happening. And I think that will, when we get down to it, I'm just assuming here, but there's an 84-second delay between the counter sniper taking this guy out and his actually squeezing off some shots in between. Well, I think that problem was is he didn't know if it was friend or foe on that roof because there was supposed to be local law enforcement on a roof.
Yeah, Congressman Joyce, lots of questions. I also want to add to your list. On the Sunday after the assassination attempt, I wrote the former National Security Advisor, Robert O'Brien, whom I had seen in the first year out of office, and he had a detail. He had a detail because he's been threatened, and the FBI has confirmed he's been threatened by foreign adversaries. They have pulled that detail. Do you have any idea why they have? The threat's not gone. He continues to be briefed on the threat. What is the Secret Service doing? They're not protecting people who've been threatened by the fanatics.
And I think similarly for our mutual friend Mike Pompeo. And they've been threatened, and they're not having the details that are necessary to cover these people. And what makes it even stranger is we had to find out after this about the Iranian threat on President Trump. So these threats are out there, and they're failing to recognize or at least make sure they have the manpower to cover these type of things. And you wonder whether or not President Trump was even put on notice of that threat on his life.
So, Congressman, you said you were their probes chair, and that means you know they have enough money. They told O'Brien they didn't have the money. Do they have the money to cover? I mean, the one thing we ought to be able to do is protect our senior executive officials, former senior executive officials, and this includes everyone in the Biden White House, because they'll all be under the threat from the fanatics as well. Do we have enough money to do this?
Yeah, plenty of money. And the thing is, what I think, Hugh, and you and I can go back far enough. Remember when they used to be under Treasury? They got to get them the hell out from underneath the Department of Homeland Security. Mayorkas can't even do his one job, let alone oversee the agencies underneath him like this. I believe they have a one duty, that's protection all times, no fail, and that's better served having him under something like the Treasury, where they don't have to worry about any other agency being involved.
Congressman, I've heard one explanation which I want to bounce off of you, which is that the senior Secret Service agents used to come out of special forces, and now that there's a private security industry to protect billionaires and tech people, that they're no longer getting those folks. Is that true? Do they have a recruitment crisis in the Secret Service like they do in the military?
They have not had a crisis. They have the people. It's whether or not the people are properly trained, and they should be doing the recruiting to make sure that they have those types of folks who understand their mission on duty with them. And there's been a lot said about Director Cheadle's 30 for 30 group, and I don't have any problem with women being on the group as long as the women are trained and know what their duty is, and that's to take the bullet for the protectee and making sure that first off, hopefully the bullet never comes, but if they do, that to be in line to take make sure that they take that bullet for the protectee and his family. And I think it's something that we got to get to the bottom of and make sure they understand their duty, their mission. And their mission is to make sure they're protecting the people, not answering these questions afterwards because of their failure.
We saw every agent on that detail, man and woman, throw themselves in front of the president, in front of his car. So there's no question about the courage of the individuals on the ground. It's just a question of who is running the security detail and the leadership. Congressman, while I have you, since your Homeland Security background on approach, was Kamala Harris the point person or not? I know Mayorkas is the secretary, but she was the border czar. I went back and looked up the AP story. She was tasked with stemming the flow. Those were the words of President Biden. Did anyone ever dispute that to your committee?
No, sir. What I've always heard that she was going down there to Central America and working on the root causes of the flow. And there's nothing about the root causes that stopped the flow. The flow kept coming. So they've managed to tighten it up a little bit here as they got closer to election year because they realize how horrendous an issue this is for the American people. And now every state has become a border state at this point because the migrants or the illegal immigrants who have come over here have managed to either deal in drugs or create issues or kill local folks. And they've suffered no recourse for coming into our country. That's absolutely wrong. People feel it, see it everywhere they're at. And so I think that she deserves full credit for having failed completely in that mission.
All right. Last question, Congressman. The Secret Service told President Trump not to hold outdoor rallies. You and I both know he loves outdoor rallies. We've seen him arrive in our Trumbull County Valley, going out to the Trumbull County Airport, touches down in Trump Force One. There are tens of thousands of people there. That's not acceptable for the Secret Service to tell the candidate not to attract big crowds, is it?
No, absolutely. You got to deal with the crowd that comes. And, it's tougher in a venue like he was at in Butler. And the preparation, I don't know what they did. We'll find out. I urged Chairman Kelly to have one of our first meetings right there at the crime scene because that tells you a lot about what was taking place. But, he has to pick his spots, maybe a little bit earlier in time to give him a couple weeks to prepare. But they should have had a walkthrough on Friday that laid out everything so everybody knew what was going on. And just think of the failures. You had, admittedly, the other day that local law enforcement was involved. They detailed this guy and realized that he was suspicious. And Secret Service wasn't on the same security platform where they didn't know that they were already dogging this guy. Somebody should have been on this guy like white on rice. Never left him out of their sights. They lost sight of him, and that's how he managed to set up shop and do what he did and damn near assassinate President Trump. And let's face it, President Trump's the luckiest guy in the world. A slight head movement was what saved his life.
I agree. The Jumbotron, and Corey Competore does not have that luxury. Dad and his family is grieving. I'll close with this. I've been around a lot of presidents who've been under protective details, both in office and out of office, and I have never seen a breakdown like this. So how soon do you think you can get answers from an agency that's deeply embarrassed?
They gave us 5 months to get this done, and so Mike's putting together, Chairman Kelly's putting together infrastructure right now and getting investigators and other things together. And we hope to meet shortly in Butler, Pennsylvania, and go through it with the people who are on the ground, learn what was going on. And then I think it's appropriate we divide up our tasks on a bipartisan basis, since it's a bipartisan commission, and start to look at the different areas. Some look at the shooter, some look at